Hi Chris, it's Nick from Reputation Ace. How are you doing?
Hi Nick, doing great, thank you. Good to hear from you.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks for coming on today. Really looking forward to asking you some questions. Can I start by asking, what is Raisemore and how did it begin?
Yes, so Raisemore is a fundraising agency for small charities, and it was specifically set up for that purpose because a number of reasons, but it's a well-known and very well-researched thing that smaller charities are more strongly favoured by donors than larger ones, and yet small charities struggle all the time to raise money. You know, and that just doesn't connect, does it?
No,
the donors favour them, but they struggle to raise money. And the reason they struggle to raise money is just simply the donors don't know about them. They're out there wanting to help, sending their money to all the big charities with their factory fundraising, but they never hear of the small charities because they don't know how to do the kind of outreach that's needed. So Raisemore was set up to plug that gap. It's also a very good commercial opportunity for us. In fact, we're under great pressure to be better than most others because a lot of the work we do is on a no-win, no-fee basis. We don't raise the money, we don't get paid. So that puts pressure on us to be very, very good at what we do.
Was that a deliberate decision on your part to do that?
Yes, deliberate decision. I'll tell you why, and then you can decide. But the small charity decision-making can be quite a slow, long process because for any significant spend, it nearly always has to be approved by trustees who might only meet twice or four times a year. So, as ever, with meetings where people are giving free time, they can get partway through an agenda and have to terminate the meeting. Agenda items held over to next time. So, if you're asking clients to spend thousands, it's going to be a very long and painful process. Because it's their money, they're going to want to feel part of the process of spending their money, therefore have a big say in what is being done to raise money. Well, all of those things can slow down progress of a campaign massively. So the no win, no fee really says just outsource it to us. You'll have complete supervision over all of the important parts of it, i.e. know what's going on, sign off on anything that's going out in your name, so forth. But the intricacies of how it's done is in our court because it's at our risk.
Right, okay.
So that's enabled us to spend way more on fundraising than any of the clients we've ever had could have contemplated. And as a result, they've grown much faster and bigger than ever they could have contemplated.
That's amazing. Could you give a few examples? One or maybe...
Yeah, I can. So one example, they're an animal rescue. When we first met them, which would have been 2014, they were making less than $1,000 a year in donations. The kind of money that all charities, small charities particularly, find hardest to raise is just general revenue. Unrestricted funding, as it's called in the business. So this is money they can spend on overheads, lighting, heating, salaries, general running costs. It's the hardest to raise and thereby often thought of as the most valuable funds to have. Most other funding streams are tied, certainly to over 80%, to a project that was the reason for asking for the funds in the first place. So if you ask for funds for a new building, the funders are going to insist and ensure that you only spend it on a new building, not general wages.
Yes.
So unrestricted funding. So that charity, well, firstly, and you could quote this any time, the founder has said to me, "But for you, we wouldn't exist."
Wow.
And the money that we've raised helped him recruit a team of managers and administrators, freed him to look at other funding opportunities. He was very interested in setting up charity shops. The charity now has 37 charity shops.
Wow.
And their income this year will be 3 million.
Amazing. What kind of feeling does that give you on a personal note?
Well, it's exactly. Well, firstly, to have any kind of business that can earn enough money just to keep you ticking over is a terrific thing.
Yep.
Paying the bills and everything else, like everybody has to. But to get to the end of the day, knowing the work made an impact on somebody somewhere is a terrific reward for what you do and how you spend your time.
Do you feel that this was like a calling in life to do this?
Right, well, I don't know if you know, I qualified as a barrister.
Yeah.
But the first business I had was a law book publishing business. And I wrote the law books and sold them. So I wrote all the direct marketing literature for them, and they were sold by direct marketing like we do for the charities now.
Yeah.
And it just turned out that I had a facility for copywriting.
Yeah.
I learned whilst selling my law books that there is just a very, very simple thing you've got to get your head around. I'm avoiding calling it the golden rule or anything like that. But that's way more important than clever tricks of words to get somebody to pay attention, or clever tricks of images or anything like that. Way more important than that. It's just simply clarity as to what it is you're talking about.
Yes.
What is if it's an offer, what's your offer? If the offer, i.e. the money off type of offer, if the offer can be made in the same phrase to explain exactly what it is you're selling, even better.
Yeah.
If you understand why Ernest Hemingway got the Nobel Prize for Literature for a book that's about 10 millimeters thick, called The Old Man and the Sea.
Yeah.
If you listen to him talking about it, he'll say that he learned very early on that if you have a sentence longer than 8 words, from the 9th word onwards in the sentence, you're on the road to losing over half of your readership.
Wow. Yeah, I really agree with that. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you think of horrendous long sentences, it would be the man was walking along the street, which in its day had been a high road full of traffic, but now was much quieter. Nevertheless, being quiet, it attracted and you go on through lots and lots of ideas in between commas before you get to the verb at the end.
Yeah.
So the brain can't hold all those things in the air. Doesn't bother to, can't, whilst you're trying to actually say what you really want to say. His method is that each sentence should just have one idea, and the next sentence should build on the idea that you got in the previous. The cat sat on the mat. The mat was brown, the cat was black. It marches forward one idea at a time.
Right, yeah.
Then people can say. So I picked that up quickly with my law books because, law of all subjects can be horrific to try and follow.
Mm.
And I sold loads of law books and made quite a lot of money just by making it simple.
Wow.
So I thought I got to a point where I'd sold my law book business, gone back to a direct marketing agency to what I thought was really learn how to do copywriting properly as an agency, and figured out that I could probably be very, very good at charity communications. That's what I aimed for. It's like finding your niche, a niche where you thought you could be really good and make a difference.
And you found that quite early on in your career, and you've had a long career in fundraising, haven't you? You've really...
Yeah, even before fundraising. So I did my first charity appeal when I worked at a company called Mail Plan in Cobham in Surrey, who did all commercial direct marketing. They had 40 clients. They were always hired just to do one thing, which is to create leads for sales reps to follow up and go and make a sales business. Right, so you had to get somebody's attention to return a reply page slip, which says, I'd like to learn more about contract hire or Kodak electronic filing, imaging, or any number of 40 different products. And you learn pretty quickly that you've got to be very quick and clear as to what these things offer and why you should bother to send something off, and then have a meeting with a sales rep. So while I was there, we landed a client called Monsanto.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the biggest agrochemical company in the world, including the one we got hired to promote, which actually changed the biology of wheat and other cereal crops.
Yes.
Whereas normally they grow quite tall and then get blown flat in rain and wind. This spray made them short and stubby, so they wouldn't get blown over and lose half the crop going mouldy in the field.
Okay, so it made them hardier, did it, in a sense?
Yeah. So myself and the art director, we always paired up as art director. We hated this one account manager. Right? He was just so full of his own importance. He was in a hurry to hustle himself to the top by elbowing and pushing a few people out, just being more aggressive.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, we'll have some fun with him. He was the account manager for Monsanto. So we created this lead generation mailing, presented it to him, and said, this is going to be an absolute winner. We were inside full of mirth because it was a complete piss take of him.
Right.
And what it had was an image of your lovely wheat or barley standing perfectly safe and erect as it should, and the other half of the field flattened.
Yeah.
And I put to Charles, art director, said, what if we say, farmers, don't get caught with your crops down? Right?
Yeah.
So this got presented to the bloke. We heard nothing of it at all. Now, I used to wear headphones, ear defenders, because the room was noisy. We had print buyers, 4 or 5 of them screaming at printers. So I had these ear defenders, and I became aware on this morning of a sort of a gaggle of people. They were always bringing clients around, or prospective clients, to show the place. And anyway, but I was aware, so I put my head down so as not to get picked. And I got even more aware as they seemed to be getting closer. And eventually somebody tapped on my ear defender to get my attention. So I turned round, took it down, and this stranger, who's a bloke in his 50s, said, Are you Chris Stoddard? And I said, yes. I mean, he could have been a detective.
Yeah.
I said, yes. He said, yeah, I've got something for you. Case of 12 bottles of wine. Right?
Right.
Top-notch French Bordeaux.
Okay. I think I see where this is going, yeah.
This is Grand Cru Classe Bordeaux. These would be hundreds of pounds a bottle.
Yeah.
And he said, we have a gift for you. Your campaign, Farmers Don't Get Caught with Your Crops Down, is the most successful ever we've had, and we've made a fortune.
That is amazing.
So it's fun. But I just did think then, well, I could do this. I could do this. So then I applied for my first full-time job at it.
Wow. And when did you decide to? Was it at that point you decided to go it alone, or did you?
I worked at a company in Cheltenham, one of several hires they took on in 1986, summer of 1986, as they were growing rapidly. They were the first ever specialist charity direct mail agency, or direct marketing agency. And there lots of others grew up since, but they were the first. And I worked there. So I believed, and I still absolutely do, and this is what we practice, is that you really need to interrogate the product that you're going to sell. I mean, really, really get to know about it, not just what it looks like and what it's supposed to do, but really close to how it works and
live it and breathe it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly, because they'll be, and especially listen to people talking about it in their words, because they'll quite often have better words than you could invent.
Right, sure.
If
more natural.
Well, not to divert from the subject, but there's two instances I'll give you why this pays off, and it's everyone should adopt it really. One was I was with a motor neurone disease charity, and I'd asked to speak to a hospital consultant associated with the charity to ask what it was like delivering the diagnosis. So it's getting down to the lived experience of people involved with it, because that's what readers really latch onto, isn't it? So I said, what is it like? What exactly happens? What words do you use? How are they sitting? How are you sitting? He said it's distressingly more or less the same every time. He said you've got a patient who knows there's something really wrong with them, have known for a while. They're finally going to get the answer. And he says, he has a special way of preparing them. He says, I'm now going to give you our diagnosis, so you need to just prepare yourself. And it's a couple, they'll hold hands. And he'll say, well, the diagnosis is that you have motor neurone disease. Now, they may not have heard of motor neurone disease, but right. The first thing they do is sort of hug each other and say, thank God it's not cancer. And then he says, I have to tell them, well, it's actually worse than cancer, because cancers of all sorts can be treated, cured, what have you, but motor neurone, no.
Right.
So that's how valuable testimony directly is, right?
Yeah.
In copy. And the other one was I went to talk with this mother of a boy with muscular dystrophy. So it's a muscle wasting disease, which eventually will kill and it only affects boys.
Right. Okay.
And I asked her, tell me how, what do you think about in the day, there's a hospital with a big research unit into muscular dystrophy just down the road in Wimbledon. What do you think? And she said, well, I'm not very proud of myself reading it, but I'm thinking at 11 o'clock in the morning, I really wish they wouldn't stop for a coffee, but just keep going. And at 1 o'clock, I'm thinking, they stopped for lunch. I really just wish they wouldn't stop for lunch, but keep going. Wow. They might find a cure.
Yeah, God.
Now, you would never ever get that from your own imagination, would you?
No.
Yeah, but I thought if I can apply some of that in this world and whatnot, there's a real chance of being known to be good at it and making a career of it that would be very interesting, fulfilling, meet fascinating people, which I have. Been driven into Khayelitsha Township on the edge of Cape Town, where no white people go. But I managed to get this nun they were just a normal poverty charity. This was not a religious thing. But the nun was the only person known in that township that they knew of that they could safely entrust someone with.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have had that if it hadn't been for working in the field. And, however anybody describes poverty, it's not until you see 750,000 people living in put together shacks made of old bits of tin and cardboard and, with nothing, not much money or not much food, nothing.
Yeah.
That, so that, I wouldn't have had that. It's just, it's been a very rich in experience.
So
life in the sector.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I mean, you've clearly immersed yourself in it in many ways, physically, but also obviously mentally, in the sense that you'll go and speak to somebody to actually find out how they're feeling and be able to then translate it in fundraising, but also the lived experience of actually physically going to a place and seeing the abject poverty that we only really see on the television, don't we?
Yeah.
In general.
Well, see, you used a very interesting word there. That I did a load of recordings for the Open University in my earlier years about copywriting for fundraising, part of a fundraising course they put together. And one of the things I said there, I've absolutely included it in anything on copywriting, is that when you're writing for people, it's never the facts that are the important thing. Right? You may spill out a load of facts about poverty or this or that. It's never the important thing. It's how I, as the writer, feel about those facts that matters. What does that make me want to do?
Translate it to the reader.
Completely. And then, it's, of course, you then a much smaller gap to the reader to say, well, surely you think the same, feel the same. We can do something about this.
Yeah.
It's much more sitting next to somebody, talking with them, quietly maybe, rather than yelling at them.
Finding the shared humanity in it all.
Yeah, well, often with selling of any kind, people look as much, if not more, for reasons not to do something, not to buy, not to do something, than reasons to buy.
Yeah.
So I got a phone call from this guy who was an American, but he runs a big worldwide hunger relief program. And he phoned me, he said, look, quite frankly, I'm probably wasting your time and mine. He said, I've just come from a meeting with our trustees. We've held a 2 months process of trying to find a new direct marketing agency to take our work forward. We had a long list of 20, reduced it to 3, had the final pitches of the 3 just a few days ago. We've got one that we're all very happy with, except this one trustee who has insisted, before we make a decision, we talk with you. Just in case he said, you just have to anyway. I don't know who the trustee was, but I offered to go down to Paddington Hotel, the Hilton Hotel at Paddington, have a meeting and, find out what it's about.
Yeah.
So we get into them, and it's a typical pitch situation if you've been in formal pitches. So there's 3 of them sitting at a table. I'm invited in, sitting opposite, looking as if I'm, interviewing for a job. And the guy says, look, I know I was a bit brief, but he said, time is short. We have pretty well made our minds up, and it's on the strength of the creative they showed us that we were convinced they just understood us.
Yeah.
So I said, well, would you mind if I read, just so I can understand what impressed you so much? And he showed me this, it was a nicely laid out letter. The first line of it is, I want to tell you the stories of Margaret, Juliet, and Harriet. I'm making those names up now.
Sure.
3 little girls born in Africa. So Margaret's story, there's 8 lines or so of Margaret's story. Born in horrendous poverty, 8 lines of woe and a horrific start in life. Next girl, 8 lines of woe, horrific start in life. Next girl, 8 lines of woe, horrific start in life.
Yeah.
And even before I finished reading through the third of the 3 stories, I said, well, right here, right now, without reading anymore, is the reason you need us and not these guys. And he said, well, how on earth would you, work that out? I said, well, look, think of it. Imagine the reader. Now, there'll be another charity doing very similar work. Let's Save the Children, there's Oxfam, there's loads, all doing poverty relief, especially with children. Yeah. I said to him, so what if they also have 3 little girls who are born into poverty? Now, are their girls more deserving of funding than yours? And he looked at me blankly. I said, well, okay, let's take their girl, Hannah. Is Hannah more deserving than your Margaret? Is Wendy more deserving than your Juliet? And each time he said, well, they're equally deserving, right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, there you have it. You cannot compete on need.
Right.
On the level of need.
Okay.
There's no ground for competition. All needs are equal in the donor's eyes. They're all serious, all need doing something about. They're all equally deserving. How on earth is a person going to decide to support you rather than somebody else when you're all promoting the identical thing?
Yeah.
I said, you have to find other grounds for competition. Like, yours are really on the verge of dying of starvation, something urgent. Some reason why the person reading it should put the 2 others aside for another day and support you today. That's the challenge. It's not the issue of getting how serious the need is across. Everyone knows what it is. Probably actually doesn't want to bathe in the actual experience of how horrendous it is for Juliet. But they need guidance on how to choose one over the other.
Yeah.
So, over the time we built up this complete playbook of elements you just have to have. And, it's why we've been successful. So I was prefacing there. So what my favourite fundraising result by far, it comes from a bloke called Brian Wright, who was the director of the International Arm of Help the Aged.
Yep. Who
told me, as a result of mailing I did for them and the money it raised, 200,000 blind people in India could see again.
Wow.
As a result of the cataract operations that my mailings had helped to fund.
How does that feel?
Well, it's you can probably hear it in my voice now. It's a while ago, and I'm still damn chuffed about it.
Yeah.
Of course, the mailing itself, there's a not-for-profit organisation. Its job is just to maintain a gallery of the best in fundraising. Best ideas, best use of imagery, best all sorts, so that people can go and pick and choose and find inspiration. And the mailing that got the money for International Help the Aged was described in there as possibly the best ever for getting new donors. And I've got here in my office, I got a gold award in the Creative Awards that year for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of stunning how something you could do could have that much of effect. Because,
Yeah.
I help people in my way, but it's a completely separate tier. The fundraising and the charity work it's one thing to, to write the copy and to speak with somebody and to immerse yourself in to get an idea. It's another thing to actually then achieve the goal of getting the fundraising, but then to actually get the actual result of the fundraising and to get to the final line where you've helped not just change the life of the people, in this case, for example, who had cataracts, who couldn't see, but it doesn't just change them, it changes everybody that they are connected with, their children, their family, the village, for example, and the future of their bloodline, in a sense.
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
So you've done fundraising for years and you've seen it all. How has it changed over the years?
Yes. It's obviously changed hugely. I think it has become more remote from the donor. The fundraisers don't deal directly with the person who's going to give the money in the way they used to.
Yeah.
They don't even set out to achieve that. And yet, there is, regardless of somebody's wealth, there is an absolute hierarchy that determines the likely maximum amount you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
And it's directly tied to what the channel of communication is. So let's just go back before the era of social media. So in that era, it was letters, telephone calls, face-to-face.
Yeah.
As it was with almost any sales process.
Yes. It's hard to remember that now, yeah.
Yeah, but it was, your aim was to get a face-to-face. The way you did it was write a sales letter, follow it up with a phone call to fix a meeting and go and see them. Because it needed the face-to-face to land the sale, by and large. So when I used to lecture, I had this little sort of vignette of, imagine the very self-same person, right? Wakes up, it's a Sunday, they haven't read the post from Saturday, they get a charity direct mail and they write a cheque for £10. It couldn't be much more, but they send a cheque for £10.
Yeah.
They get a phone call that morning and they agree £20 a month direct debit.
Okay.
They'll go to church and the collecting plate will come round and they put £1 in the collecting plate, £1 coin.
Yeah.
They could have given much more. The means of communication really has a defining effect on how much they give.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
A collecting tin outside the supermarket will get a 10p put in it.
Yeah.
It won't get £20 rolled up and put in the slot. We'll never get that. So now this is the question. If I was lecturing, or I would ask the question. So in that hierarchy, where do social media contact fit? Is it higher than face-to-face, lower than letter? Where does email fit? Is it stronger communication channel than social, or weaker? Where does it fit versus letter? And video, Zoom, where does that fit versus face-to-face when you're hoping to get the total trust of somebody so they give a large amount of money? Can £1 million worth of trust be built on Zoom? So modern fundraisers use all these tools now. And because, communication generally amongst so many is remote rather than personal, one-to-one, they're much more inclined. There's many more applications for jobs in digital fundraising than face-to-face going to see donors.
Right, okay, yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
Because, there's a certain
Comfort.
You can hide behind it all.
Yeah, yeah.
And pump it out and look at all the breadcrumbs that tell you there's been engagement. But so I think fundraising has become much more remote, has moved away from donors, which is a really bad thing. And it's put a position where the UK was already far worse in their quality of communications with donors than the rest of the English-speaking fundraising world. In this sense, not quality of communication, but the whole idea of fundraising at the moment is to generate lots and lots and lots of small amounts of money.
Mm.
We have a horrific small money fundraising culture,
right,
in the UK. So, hence the huge emphasis on events, even mass participation events, which can make money, but all at the expense of putting in time to get to know donors and get large amounts of money. Whereas, wherever you want to go, United States, Australia, Canada, South Africa, the absolute top 10 list of donor targets is the wealthiest, the next wealthiest, the next wealthiest, the next wealthiest, the next wealthiest, and the very last you'll spend any time and effort on those who'll send you a fiver.
Right, okay.
Because the cost to benefit ratio is just so, disadvantageous in looking for small money. That's why events are the most costly, time-consuming, least productive form of fundraising we have. Legacy giving is the least expensive, least time-consuming, most productive form of fundraising we have.
That's
getting people to make a gift in their will. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a big change that I've seen.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say that there's possibly more ways to give money and more ways to raise funds, but because of the lack of connectivity, it's actually, would you say, more difficult now, or
it's more difficult now.
Yeah.
It's more difficult now, partly because the fundraisers are so disinclined to do what it takes to get to a proper meeting with somebody who's got real money.
Yes, right.
Or we don't have to be talking Bezos money here. Just people who've done well enough in their, it's usually a business, to be able to peel off a few thousand.
Yeah. Would you say people are, as a whole, would you say people are less inclined nowadays to give to charity, or
no, more or just the same?
Right. Okay. Oh,
Our
okay.
results would absolutely say per contact it's more.
Great. Okay. Great.
Yeah, definitely. And there definitely is the money there at the moment. We'll see if energy cost is going to frighten any older people. I don't know.
Yes.
But our fundraising pool really is approximately 4 million people who retired, but their career was in the public sector. So that you could say a retired geography teacher.
Yeah.
Head of department at the time she retired. Very nice sector pension. Pretty well paid during her job. Never bought a German car. Was never interested in that. That didn't do anything for her. Didn't need to show off on the driveway. And they've got plenty of money. A combination of plenty of money and an attitude that wasn't swayed by signs of wealth, show off of wealth. Much more likely to go on an educational touring cruise with lectures about ancient Troy and Greece and whatnot, and field trips than a holiday in the Bahamas at Sandals or one of those.
Yeah.
So there's definitely the money there. They're the least affected by ups and downs of anything, recession, pandemics, all sorts.
Okay, so they just keep on going in general.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Which actually sort of brings it on to my final question is, what's next for you in terms of your fundraising, Raisemore, and potentially any other projects you have? Yeah.
So, well, I wrote these a few days ago in prep, but something's happened since I wrote them, which is that an organisation, it was a charity, was set up called Small Charities Coalition.
Okay.
To help small charities just be better resourced, better equipped to raise money. And management of people and structurally better, just fitter organisations. They announced a couple of weeks ago they're closing down beginning of February. So that's the only body whose real remit was helping small charities. So how much of that space we try to fill, I don't know, but it's definitely an issue in the mix.
Right, okay.
That a source of help and know-how has gone. So what's next for us? Well, we're a demo lab, really, of how small charities can be extremely successful in raising money. Because we've all our clients have been small charities, and we've done it for years. So there are just a few things that we have that small charities generally don't, all in the form of know-how of how to get people to leave money in their will, for example. How to get the attention of wealthy people.
Yeah.
How to get the attention of people who could send you 100 or 200 a month. How to get people to make out a generous cheque, middle-sized cheque, small cheque, cash, credit cards out to you. How to do all those things, right?
Yeah.
We have all of the know-how anybody would ever need for all of that. So my mission now is to find a way to bring all that know-how into use by small charities in a way that almost doesn't require them to learn the know-how. We can create tools that embody the know-how. For example, if you think of a good email promotion or a good Facebook ad or a good letter even, all the knowledge on how to do a Facebook ad is also embodied in the ad itself that you do.
Yeah.
Right? So, ready-made ad templates, email templates, 5 different subject lines to choose from and adapt according to what you're doing. Backed by MailChimp's latest survey on what makes the best subject lines for emails, derived from billions of emails that have gone through MailChimp in the previous 12 months. They tell you that. MailChimp have got that. So it's pulling all of that together in a system that will make all of the range of fundraising avenues that the big charities use, put that straight into the hands of the small charities. Because, after all, as I said at the very beginning, the local donors want to support the small charities. They just don't ever hear from them directly.
Yes, yeah.
Now, Fundraising Blueprint is a step in that direction. But I think once we've developed it more, we'll be able to end up with a process which more or less says, just decide what it is you want to do. Right? That's all you've got to do as a charity. Just decide what type of money you want to raise.
Yeah.
And here is a process map that will take you all the way through to what you've got to do to get it, get that money.
Yeah. Well, that seems like a great tool. I've looked at it while I was looking at your website, and yeah, I mean, it definitely takes. I guess it takes all of your I think it's 40 years of experience, packs it away into these sort of easy to use kind of templates and information sheets. That's very exciting in terms of the potential it does have for small charity fundraising.
Yeah, well, hopefully on the back of it, we'll then get lots of phone calls saying, well, that's great, we like this one, but we've now got to find somebody to do it, or would you do it for us?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
We'll have a good commercial return for it all.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, thank you for your time and thank you for answering all these questions today, Chris. It's been really enlightening for me, and it'll be very useful for anybody who's looking to raise funds or build their charity. If people are looking to find you, what's the best way to contact you?
Fundraising Blueprint's got a contact page. Raisemore has a contact page that comes straight through.
Yes.
But we have not set up, for instance, a phone this number now in a prominent place, or emails or social contacts. Find us and me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
It's the whole range, isn't it? Because
yeah.
people choose what channel suits them best. I've all of a sudden had a rash of messages on Facebook Messenger, business messages, which I've never used to. It's a bit odd.
It's good to see that that's working. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put all the links in the description so people can contact you and ask you if they have any questions. Thank you very much for coming on today.